Today we're updating the legendary commander tier list, reviewing every single legendary in the game across open field, city defense, rallying, and canyon. So if you're wondering which commanders are the very best, this video has the answers for you. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today we've got big updates to the format for the legendary commander tier list in Rise of Kingdoms. And in this version, I got really aggressive in differentiating between the very best and the ones that are not the very best. And this is based off of your feedback where you said, like, Chisgule, S plus or minus isn't doing it for me, buddy. I want more differentiation. And so I get it. We went in, and here is the new design of the ranking system that I'm using. S is like the very best, and that's always been the case, with only one S plus representing the literal best in category. From there, an A rating means it's a candidate for the best march in the game, whether that's rallying or fielding. For its troop type, it is a candidate for being one of the best. A B rating would mean that it is a candidate for the second best march in the game for its troop type. So, you know, whether it's archers, it's like the second best archer march you could bring to Canyon, or the second best archer rally that you could potentially use. C is the third best march in the game, a candidate for that. And D is just like, don't use this commander for this. They're really not meta. You can use them, and they're actually going to be better than like it would look at a D rating potentially, especially for the open field. The differentiation between these is, I think, not as great, but you all wanted some intense grading that is very aggressive, so here we are with an aggressive rating system. And I will add, there is one categorization called niche, I put an N on it, where a commander just has a very specific role. Like, all the garrison commanders are just basically given an N if I think all they're really there to do is be a garrison captain. To give them an overall rating based on a bunch of stuff that they aren't designed to do just didn't make sense. So they get a niche role rating overall. As a reminder, the categories we'll do today is city defense, then open field, then rallying cities, then rallying objectives, then defending of those same objectives like flags, forts, holy sites, and then lastly canyon. And there's always timestamps so you can jump to whichever portion you're most interested in. And actually, unlike how I normally start with city defense, what I want to do is start with the commanders that are not meta. Let's start there. So we're going to put that up on the screen, and these commanders, you simply shouldn't be using them. Thutmose, Ragnar, El Cid, Caesar, Double C, Edward of Woodstock, Moctezuma Khan, Lubu, Suleiman Barca, Freddy, and Charlemagne. And some of these commanders that have an overall C rating, maybe you could find a home for in the open field. And weirdly, Ragnar actually is a shockingly good alternative to Takeda. I made a dedicated video about that. Card will be up in the top, and maybe I'll remind you at the end, in the end screen, that you could actually rally a city with Attila Ragnar, and it would do shockingly well. But otherwise, these commanders are not meta. You can use Double C to rally Barb Forts, and he's very good for that. I double relicked him, and he's strong there. And Caesar is, I think, better than people give credit for, and so is El Cid in the open field. But overall, I think these ratings are fair. The only one where I think maybe I could have bumped them higher is Caesar. But you'll see when, you know, the other commanders we're sort of comparing to that, like, yeah, he's kind of a third string choice, okay? So from here, we can actually talk about city defense, and I've got Heraclius on the screen, and it's not a coincidence. I'm putting him at the highest possible rating, S+. I think he's the best you've got for city defense. He's going to hit reinforcers with AoE when they're trying to reinforce a rally. If they're swarming you, he's great. I think he's very strong. And I've bumped down YSS and Theo to actually be an A, as well as Jadwiga. The only commanders remaining at S are Zenobia, Flavius, and Jan Ziska, and that is because their effects are just too gosh darn powerful. Especially if you look at like Jan Ziska and Flavius, the skill damage is just so high, and that's what you need for defending your city. Really high damage factor. Now, Amani and Skippy, weirdly enough, I've left it A. Skippy is just such a weirdo, man. Like, he actually works for garrisoning, and I don't want to talk about it more because it's just so damn weird. But also, I have included Artemisia and Esong at a B. Esong AoE, very, very strong. Possible that Isong should be lower. Maybe he should be a C, and Artemisia should remain as a B. But you could use Amani Art as a combo, and I think that would be okay. In general, I think that for defending your city now, the thing you really want to do is try to counter whatever rally they're bringing, or if they're swarming, you want to use commanders that are good anti-swarm, like Charles Martel. You know, he's got a bunch of counterattack damage boost. It's pretty reasonable for most people to use in that context, but otherwise he's really going to be outclassed as I scroll around to try to find him here against the majority of rallies that will come his way. So Heraclius is your new S+ champion for city defense, but for open field, the champion remains actually the same, and I think it is Skippy Prime. The dude is a beast, and he always has been. There's only 4 commanders I left at an S or higher rating. That includes Nevsky, Boudica, and Joan Prime. I really wanted to differentiate. These are your best of the best, baby. From there, we've got a lot of A commanders, really, really strong, like Guan Yu and Sargon and XY and Henry. These are commanders that will do extremely well in the open field. Nebu and Artemisia and Isong. And if you're wondering, like, Chisgule, where did you get this from? How did you decide this? Not only is this from countless hours of personal use and experience, but also countless hours in observation from 1960 and 1365 and what they're using in their meta murder balls. So this is reinforced or backed not only by my opinion, but also by what's actually being done by kingdoms that actually get to fight in top tier KVKs. That's a knock at Match Not Found, which I don't want to talk about more right now. I'm not bitter. So from here, you'll notice there's some commanders that were bumped down a bit, and you might be surprised, but like, why is Tariq ibn Ziyad a B, for example? Well, you know, look, he's not going to be in the best march. He might be, maybe be in the second best march. Probably not, though. Like, honestly, he might even be a C. Like, he's a candidate for inclusion, in my opinion, for like your third best infantry option. So that's why he is a B. Maybe he should be a C. Commander like Gilgamesh, right? He's a C. And you're like, bro, he's not that bad in the field. And you're right, he's not that bad. But remember, you have a lot of better options, right? So candidate for inclusion in the best march is an A. Second best march is a B. Third best march is a C. He's maybe a candidate for a C march. Probably not even, which is just weird to say. But there's a lot of stronger archers than what we've got here. Another thing I did is I started to bump down a little bit commanders like Attila and Takeda, and also Pakal and Harold, because, like, yeah, I get that you can use them for cheeseburgering, but I wanted to kind of redefine this open field category, not for, like, the miscellaneous weirdness that somebody might do off to the side, but, like, the way you actually win the KVK by making a huge group of players all in one position. That's called a ball, and then your ball fights their ball, and single target damage commanders are just really bad for that. So even though Attila, Takeda, and Pakal and Harold can do really solidly in that situation where they're, you know, getting incremental cheeseburger value, card will be up in the top if you're not familiar with that term, cheeseburgering. That's where you pop out of your city, do some damage, pop back in before they can do a lot back to you. Sure, you can get value, but that's not the point of this list. The point is, if you want to make the best ball, and you should want to do that, here's what you should use. Now, from here, let's get to rallying cities. Rallying cities is a category that I think is unchanged with the addition of Heraclius, and I think Tariq ibn Ziyad is still probably your best bet, with either Pakal or Sargon as a secondary, because as of right now, there's not a good counter to what he's doing. Your best bet is like Zeno Flavius or Flavius Heraclius, maybe Zeno Hera, but that combo just doesn't seem to do particularly well. So I really like the Tariq ibn Ziyad for a city rally specifically. I also like him for rallying other stuff, but we'll talk about that in just a second. And there are other commanders that are still really great, like Henry and Nebu and Gilga. And a part of the reason that I left Gilga as an S rating, even though I just finished saying, oh, but he's like, you know, candidate for a second string march or a third string march, is that the reality is that if they use a Zeno, you bring the Gilga. And he's so good for that. He's so good for that. So I'm leaving him at that high ranking because there is a situation where he is your go-to. He's your best of the best. Maybe I could bump him down to an A. Maybe that would be more fair. But we'll leave him S for now. For this first run of the list where we're changing around so many things, I still think that's pretty fair. And the one commander you might actually be really shocked to see on this list is actually going to be Minamoto. And that is because the new best cavalry rally is a double relic Minamoto secondary to Nevsky. That's better, by the way, than Joan Prime. GG. GG, baby. Double relic Minamoto is actually clapping cheeks. So there's a bump up that I think is really important to call out. But otherwise, this list probably isn't too surprising for you for rallying cities. And there are very few changes when it comes to rallying objectives. The only major change is that while you'd use Attila Takeda to rally a city, you're not going to use Attila Takeda if you're going to try to rally an objective in KVK. So Takeda does get a bump down in this context. Tamaris gets a bump down in this context as well. Like, you could arguably use Tommy to rally a city, especially a multi-rally. And you could also multi-rally a structure with Tommy. But until she gets a relic herself, I think she's got a bump down here for rallying those particular things. Also, Mehmed is a commander you would consider, I suppose, for rallying a city. I think the other commanders are better. But you certainly wouldn't use him for rallying an objective. Now, when it comes to defending those objectives, I actually kind of struggled with who to give the S+ to. I feel like it's either Jan Ziska or it's Heraclius. But no matter how you slice it, the addition of Heraclius made Jan Ziska way more relevant than ever. And I don't exactly understand why it is these two work so damn well together. But the reality is that Jan with Hera is clapping. It's so good. So I would put Hera as the S+ for now. Zeno and Flavius and Jan Ziska are all at S. But keep in mind that Zeno Hera is strangely not all that great compared to your other Hera combos. And also keep in mind that Zeno Flavius is still actually great. If you're going to run a Zeno combo, that's probably what I would do. This means that YSS and also Jadwiga get a bump down. It's actually shocking how long YSS lasted as a top tier commander. But now that Hera's here, I just don't think you would ever use him other than maybe the Hera YSS combo, which I think is good, but I don't think it's as good as the Jan Hera combo. But I'm open to your thoughts on that. A lot of things changed in this list all at once, so there could be some refinements needed. That might be one refinement that I would be open to, is maybe bumping up YSS to be, slightly higher rating. But I gave him an A, which is still a great grade. A candidate for one of the best marches, but not like a cut above everything else. I do also notice one other thing that I would potentially change, which I have Skippy as an S, but I think he certainly should be more like an A. Using, Flavius Skippy, he probably should be A rating, not S rating, but it's all close enough. From here, let's go to Canyon and talk about some of the very best commanders you can use in this game mode. And this is largely unchanged, although I have been slightly more aggressive. Commanders like Nevsky and Guan and Skippy are all really, really strong. In fact, maybe the best way for me to show this is by illustrating in my Canyon team. You know what? We'll actually show it on Chadsky's team here and the way that he's got this set up. But essentially, he's got his Trajan with Mulan, Guan with Skippy, Richard with Constantine, Nevsky with Joan, and Boudica with Isong. This is slam dunk all your S commanders right there. And the S+ is Constantine, strangely enough. Because the thing is that he is just so effing tanky, and his effects are so powerful, especially because he starts to give you skill damage taken mitigation when you get shields. So you put a lucky coin on that combo, and it is just too damn good. And so from there, we just kind of differentiate. Like, all right, like you could use Sargon, and he's good, but we give him an A. Maybe he should honestly be a B. We'll give him an A. You've got commanders like Henry and Gilgamesh. I gave them Bs. You've got commanders like Attila and Takeda. They get either a C or potentially lower. Like Tommy, I gave a D in this particular category. I tried to be really aggressive in saying, like, these commanders are actually really good. For example, Mehmed, solid commander to generally mix into this lineup. If you don't have certain commanders, I gave him a B. So your very best of the best in this starting lineup got the S, and then everything that's not in this starting lineup got a lower grade. So this brings us to the overall ratings, baby. We put it all up on the screen, and what the heck does this mean? It means that I think that overall best commander in the game is currently Nevsky. He open fields, rallies objectives and cities, by the way. You can use him technically to defend objectives, and he's also really good in Canyon. Theoretically, you could put him on the wall for your city, but, you know, I think that Nevsky's so strong. He's the best commander in the game at this moment, followed closely by Skippy, Boudica Prime, and Joan Prime. From there, you've got A-quality commanders, and in no particular order. You've got Guan Yu, Sargon, Tariq ibn Ziyad, XY, Henry, Nebu, Gilga, Artemisia, Isong, Pakal, William, Honda, Trajan, Attila. I'm giving him the A because he is used in a rally, and also he does, you know, have value in the field. And then Minamoto, baby. Mina freaking Moto back in the A list, which I love to see, honestly, even though I'm not personally going to use him, except for swarming garrisons. Then I probably swap him in. I love that the museum buffs have really breathed fresh life into this commander. I think that's a great thing for the game. So I'm really happy that he is now in the A's. The B's start to get really aggressive, and you might get a little mad at me. So bear with me. When you see that Alexander the Great, I think I've rated as a B based on the way that we've done this rating scale. You could justify bumping him up to an A, but let me just explain why he is a B. And that is in part because of the absence of a museum buff. This could change. But is he a part of the #1 infantry march in the game? No. Does he rally? No. Does he garrison? No. Is he meta in Canyon? The answer is still no. Even though he is a really great commander, he's not the commander that's being used by 1365 and 1960 in their perfect murder ball configurations, at least to the best of my knowledge. So he's not an A quality commander by justification of the rules you all asked me to make that were more strict. He's got to be a B because he's not in any situation the #1 infantry pairing. But he is a part of what I would argue is a second best, certainly a third best infantry pairing, but I think a second best infantry pairing, you should probably use your Alex, especially once they give him a museum buff. I think he'll be much, much better, although until we see exactly what that is when it's in game, we won't know what it looks like. So for those of you getting out the pitchforks, because the Alexander, the Great being a B, I think for overall, that's an important distinction to make. Also, although I haven't talked about it this entire time, I did add Margaret and Babur into the list, and ranged are, I think, balanced, which is weird to say, but I think it is balanced. Like, you don't have to do it. It's a way to play the game, and I think these commanders are not first string. I don't think they are. I mean, certainly for range they are, because they're the only ones, but you would never want an account to have Babur and Margaret instead of Nevsky with Joan Prime. Like, you just wouldn't. You'd much rather have Nevsky Joan Prime or Nevsky Minamoto as your like one march if you were only going to have one. You would much rather have Skippy with Sargon or, you know, Guan with Skippy as your one march, not Babur with Margaret. But they're good enough, and the range is going to be powerful. I gave them Bs. Almost they need like a niche role designation. And a part of the reason they get such a low rating, and maybe they deserve a niche role designation, is they don't work for city defense, they don't work for rally, they don't work for garrison. Maybe next time I do this list, they get niche role, because they also suck in Canyon. I mean, they really suck. If you haven't seen it, they'll sit there for like 10 seconds to set up their turret. So basically the match is over by the time they're in turret mode, because you have been having one march out of the fight, whereas everybody else has, or your opponents will all have 5 marches fighting. So I think they actually need to be shifted to niche role. Other commanders that you might be like really shocked or upset about are going to include Saladin, Leonidas, and Ramses. And, you know, there's always like a dozen comments that are, you know, hey, Ramses is better than you're giving him credit for. But the thing is that Ramses isn't in the first string of archers. He's not in the second string of archers. He's maybe in the third string of archers, if you could pick from literally any archer you want. So maybe if you were using 3 archer pairs, maybe you'd use the Ramses in the open field. Compared to all your other options, I think you'd pick other stuff. And Leonidas is a weird one, because I think he's actually like better than represented. I really do. However, at this moment in time, Leonidas really is only benefiting the Guan that you pair him with, and that's all you can pair him with. So I do feel like he is very strong, but because he isn't doing really big debuffs, yeah, he's enhancing, the rage gen on your Guan. I think I have to give him a C. We want big buffs. We want big area of effect damage. We want tons of march speed. We want tons of debuffs. He just doesn't have those things. Now, I still think he's really damn good for field specifically, but realistically, overall, he's a C. You've got better options in Canyon too. You don't rally your garrison with him, so have to put him there. And then lastly, the Saladin is just in the same boat as the Leonidas. Look, I used Guan Leo and was very happy for a long time. I used Saladin William and was extremely happy with their performance for just a very long time. But if we stick to the grading system that you all wanted me to make that's more harsh, he has to get a C, because there's just too many other commanders that are higher priority than him for inclusion. You'd rather have XY. You'd rather have even potentially Bert than Saladin, maybe when he gets a museum buff, but you'd certainly rather, have Chandragupta, right? So there's just too many other commanders where you'd probably rather have them than the Saladin for the debuffs and the other benefits they give. But hey, a relic Saladin could change the context. If you're looking for more information about which commanders I think are a really good investment in Rise of Kingdoms, not only are they good right now, but they will be for a long time, card will be in the end screen for what I think the best investments are. And another card I want to include is if you're an early game player and all this just sounded like really overwhelming, great news for you. I've got a video explaining what your investment order should be in order to get to the end game and hit really strong. And out of curiosity, just leave a comment for me if you want me to make a video about 1254 match not found. GG, man. Second time we queued up for a KVK format with a bunch of other big Imperium kingdoms, and we got match not found. There's a lot to say here, so let me know in the comments if you want a video about it.